For those who are politically wise, a show about the lives of Christians in Ohio involved with politics. Introducing your host, Reverend Thomas Wise.
Greetings, my fellow patriots, saints, and sinners. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. At the end of the show, there will be a blessing. Don't miss it. But first, a word from our sponsor.
To some people, they're just a pet, a dog or a cat. But to you, they're part of your family. They've shared your lives, provided companionship, and given unconditional love. And just like when a human family member passes on, you want your four-legged family members to be treated with dignity. Baker, Hazel, and Snyder Funeral Home and Crematory has been caring for families since 1941 and now offers the same level of service for your pets at Snyder Pet Crematory. Call 274-1151, 274-1151.
The opinions and statements on this show belong to those who give them. The rest of the show belongs to Thomas Wise Words, all rights reserved. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise.
Hello, my listeners. This is Reverend Thomas Wise. The show is called Politically Wise. I am meeting with Rick Perales here at the State House. Rick, tell my listeners about yourself.
Yeah, Thomas, it's good to be here. Thomas and I met at a fundraiser out here for one of his close friends, who was one of my peers, and we just kind of connected and talked about what's going on. And a little bit about me: I grew up in a family of 5 boys, a Catholic family. We moved. My dad was in the military. We moved several times, many times. Went to college at Auburn. I was in engineering. Joined the Air Force. I was a civil engineer, Air Force officer, all over the country, all over the world. Saudi Arabia, Egypt. I really thoroughly enjoyed my time giving back to my country, helping defend my country. As a commander, I was in charge of the lives in a mission of some 500-600 people. It was a great experience. I think helped prepare me for this. I took a retirement. I went to the University of Dayton, where I was the lead engineer over there, building buildings and renovating buildings and buying property and remediating land that had damaged before. Great job. I think I spent 11 or 12 years there. Meanwhile, at the same time, I had become the mayor of the city of Beaver Creek for 2 years, a council member the 3rd year, and then I moved to the county, Greene County, and I was a county commissioner for 2 terms, 8 years. And my kids all got out of college, and I thought it was time to step it up and come to the state. As a commissioner, you're very limited on what you can do. You're an administrative arm, extension, if you will, of the state. As a state representative, you make the laws. You can do what you want that you think is in the best interest, and I was ready for that. Tom, I might note, for you and your listeners, that Saturday I became a grandfather for the first time.
Well, congratulations.
My daughter had a baby, Ken Michael, and so I'm experienced what everyone's told me is the best time of your life, being a grandfather.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
That is good. So what committees are you on here?
I am on Military and Veteran Affairs. I'm on Policy and Oversight, legislative oversight, and I'm on Transportation.
So what are some hot issues are you working on?
Well, thanks for asking. I really have 2 hot ones that I'm working through. The first one's, modifying the graduated driver's license. So I think in 06 or 05, we put together a graduated driver's license, which simply means when a child gets starts with a permit at 15 and a half, gets a license at 16, there's some restrictions on the license till they're 18. And at 18, there's nothing. Trying to assimilate them into driving to be a comfortable, confident, and educated driver. Years ago, we put some restrictions out there, if you will, and they've helped. But there's still a lot of teenage deaths. And, as a state, we're responsible for who's on the road. It's a public road. I get a lot of parents saying, don't legislate how to parent. And this isn't that. I don't want to do that. This is about making sure everyone on that road is safe, both for both you, me, and our families and everyone else. And the stats just are overwhelming that it's our 16 to 18-year-old kids that are the most vulnerable and getting the most accidents, have the most fatalities. So there's some pushback, but the main aspects of this bill is right now the curfew is 11 o'clock for 16 to 17-year-olds and 12 o'clock for 17 to 18-year-olds. And again, the stats show that starting at 9 o'clock, the deaths and accidents for these kids spike. Now, I'm a realist, so when the proposal came to do it, to have the curfew end at 8, doesn't mean they have to be in at 8. It means they can't drive alone at 8 and after. I said, that'll never work. They can't go to a movie. They can't. And so we moved it to 10, and we have exemptions for school activities and work activities. So if they have to work till 1 in the morning, busing or waiting, we get that. That's not what this is about. School activities, even if they're, which is included, like if you're in attendance at a football game Friday night, you don't have to be a player or a cheerleader. That counts. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you, you'll enjoy this. I'm going to have another meeting to update and maybe put in church activities, because I know that youth groups get together, then they like to play basketball, and it may get after 10. I also know that Boy Scout and Girl Scouts are mostly sponsored by churches, and I don't want. I mean, those are great organizations. So we're trying to be realists, but at the same time helping that. The other major component of this is that right now from 16 to 17, you can have one other non-adult in the car. The stats are incredible that as you reduce people in the car, distractions, that they're much safer. So this bill is going to say 0, no other passengers in the car, and it's not going to say till you're 17. It's going to be a moving window. So if you get your license at 16 and 3 months until 17 and 3 months, that year you can have no one in the car except family. So if your mom and dad say, will you take little Susie to the soccer tournament, you can do that. But you can't take your buddies. And I know there's hardships and issues with that dating, but in my eyes, it's no question that lives are more important than convenience. And it's only for a year. And they'll ever want to get to a better point. The problem is here, no parent realizes that it could be their kid. Everyone thinks their kids are perfect or good at this, And so, well, my kid's a valedictorian. I said, that doesn't mean they're a good driver. So anyway, that's going through. We're like our 4th hearing. We're having a lot of hearings because it affects everyone. But I expect it to get past this fall. The other thing that I'm working is House Bill 294. And it is Aerospace and Technology Study Committee. And the purpose of this group is that aerospace and technology are such big parts of our economic sectors here in the state of Ohio. Huge. Aerospace alone has over 100,000 workers there now. We got NASA, we got Wright Pat, we got all the bases, Air Guard and reserve bases. We got all the universities and their research institutes. This group, there's a few groups hanging out there with no real authority. This group will be a bipartisan and a joint Senate and House group. So it's kind of very unique like that. And then we'll have experts on the group. So maybe 3 from aerospace industry, 3 from the military, and 3 from academia. And it'll be from all over the country. And what we'll simply do, and I call it in the simplest form, is we'll connect the dots. As a matter of fact, I just recently on my own, because this is my sweet spot. I'm a military guy. I've gotten to know Jim Free, the director of NASA Glenn. Nice gentleman, very well. And I know the military leaders at Wright Pat. I worked a meeting for them down at Wright Pat, and a show and tell for Jim Free. Now they worked a little bit together already. I don't want to mislead anyone, but from that meeting, one of the things that was proposed, and they were going to work on it, was NASA to have a full-time person at Wright Pat in the research lab, and Wright Pat to have a full-time person up there. That way they know what's going on, and if there's some testing, NASA has all kinds of equipment up there, so is Wright Pat. And just the more intimate knowledge, being there day to day, it's got to be more efficient for both sides. So that's just one example how this group can help out. And I think it will really, now with UASs being such a big, big issue and potential revenue is in the billions. As a matter of fact, the FAA selecting 6 test sites as we speak that we're supposed to have by the end of the year. I think there are 25 states applying, and of course we're one of them. But with, like I said, the Research Institute and all our academia, and here's the big part. For the novice out there, everyone understands what an unmanned flying vehicle is. So that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to get the airspace. But what we have unique here is a UAV without a sensor is like a kite. It doesn't do anything. We got the sensor director for the whole Air Force right here at Wright-Patterson. So, they working together, they can create a better model, and then...
And we will be right back after the break.
Next time you're thinking about beating the train, think again. It takes a typical freight train traveling 50 miles an hour, 1.5 miles to stop. That's nearly 18 football fields. Don't try to beat the train. Ohio's roads can be highways or dieways. The choice is yours. A message from Operation Lifesaver and this station.
The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise.
And this is still your first term.
It is indeed.
Still your first
and
term.
I'm having a blast.
Right, good. Well, you said you grew up Catholic, and you said that you were in the military. Was it military? Your father was in the military,
yes.
And so this is a passion for you, and it's obviously whether the way you talk or beat the table.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
But it is. I'm passionate about it.
How does your faith, growing up Catholic, and what was that like, and how did that play into where you think you are today? And so.
It's old-fashioned. I'm Puerto Rican. It's an old-fashioned Catholic. We joke that my mom has rosary beads ingrained in her hands. We went to Catholic schools. 4 brothers, all military, by the way. We're military. 4 of us have retired since. One's still active. So the upbringing was Dad in the Air Force. It was a very strict upbringing, and 5 boys. It was pretty wild. And when he'd go overseas on remotes, like to Vietnam, my mom had to handle us all. But by and large, I think we were good, hardworking kids. We all went to college, got our undergraduate. I think 3 of us have graduate degrees. 2 of them joined the Army. 3 of us joined the Air Force. Very proud of what we did and how we served. But I'll tell you what, I think my Christian faith, where it really serves me is in 2 folds. First, I'm not judgmental. I don't judge people. I always say there's somebody higher up than me that will judge them, and I'll let him worry about it when that time comes, right? I don't do it. I give people the benefit of the doubt, and I try to see the good side of them. And I think that was part of my upbringing, and it served me well because people look me in the eyes and they know I'm not judging them, simply. And when other people do gossip or whatever, they know that everyone knows. Don't get Rick involved because he don't want to hear it. I'll judge somebody when I see them, but not judge them like that. I mean, I'll judge their character, not from what they've done. I think that served me well. The other thing that I've learned, I think I took away as a Christian is, I believe I'm very kind and considerate to all. And so I really have a soft spot for those folks that are in a bad spot. My wife and I are big family violence prevention supporters. You name it, if it's helping to our youth or, as a matter of fact, tomorrow I looked on my calendar. Today's so crowded with meetings and sessions and committees. And tomorrow, the first scheduled event I have is at noon at the Senior Center for their holiday party. And it's just, it takes so little to make somebody's day. I remember their names, or I go to school and I remember someone's name, or I'm interested, and I truly am, on what they're doing and how they're doing it. I'm pretty black and white. You don't lie. There's no half truths. Yeah. and you treat people with respect. And, I consider myself very good at returning calls and making everyone understand. And here's the key. In this role, and I was a mayor and I was a county commissioner, I work for them. They don't work for me. I think all of that, it comes from my upbringing as a Catholic, as a Christian. As an altar boy, I did the whole thing. And that's the kind of stuff that stays with you, that integrity, that kindness, that's respect. And I think I have a lot of, I'm very self-confident, self-assured where, I don't need to put someone down in order to put me up. That's just not my nature. I think that's all part of who I am, and how I got there was, God and my belief.
So tell me what a good day in politics is.
That's a great question. So I don't want to be cavalier. Every day's a good day. And every day's a challenging day. Probably not a whole lot different than yours. I mean, I have an opportunity here. Sorry. I have an opportunity here that how many people get that opportunity to serve in this capacity, to have the trust of people. And I walk out from this office to the State House every day and I look up, raining, snow, cold. I haven't got the snow yet. It's my first term. But it doesn't matter. Look where I am. Look what I'm doing. I'm so proud to be here, and everything else I've done from military on. But at the same time, in politics, you got to have a thick skin. I've been worked. I've been played. I've had bad written about me. It's hard on families. But my wife's she's good at this. She loves people as much as I do. I go into committee and you get press and you don't get the right information, and it doesn't matter who the people on your own side are working just as easy as the other side. Maybe more sometimes. So you figure out who people you can trust. I think we were there with Colonel Johnson. Who were you there with it?
Bill Hayes.
Bill Hayes, yeah. He's one of those guys that he's a good guy. And right away I knew that I can trust him when he tells me something. Unfortunately, the members here are just like any group of people outside. Some are more trustworthy, some are not. And figuring out who they are is very important. The days go forever, and meeting to meeting. I mean, I was 20 minutes late with you. But the fact is you're doing something that makes a difference. And that makes a day go like just a flash goes by. So every day is good. And I'm blessed to have this opportunity, to have the support of folks that I do.
The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. Do you pray for a politician? Do you think a politician can be a Christian? Do you think a politician should stand up for Christian principles? Do you think politicians should pray together? Do you want to see more Christians in politics? If you said yes to any of these questions, please join the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network. Find the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network on Facebook. Welcome back to Politically Wise. If you want to email me, you may do so at politically.wise@gmail.com. Please like us on our Facebook page, Politically Wise.
Well, what advice would you give for someone who to follow in your footsteps? Of course, you've been in politics. This is not your first rodeo. I mean, you've been a number of years in politics, let alone all your military.
Thomas, that is so funny because I still remember in 2001 when I ran in Beaver Creek, Ohio. We had 3 openings, 7 people running, but you don't run for mayor. They don't vote for mayor. Whoever gets the most votes is mayor. So I worked my tail off, like work ethic, and I became the mayor. First stab at politics, and I loved it. And from there to the next step, and then this step. I say, I just met with a group of Indians from India, and but all at certain levels of some kind of politics, and all very young. And I tell everyone there's a couple of keys to being successful from my experience. First off, you have to have thick skin. If you don't, you got to get thick skin, because if you don't have thick skin, you're not going to be able to see straight. And I get beat up a lot, but I can put that to side, keep my vision moving straight. And so if someone's upset about some legislation, I've gotten to a point where I can pull out the substance of their upset, and all the name calling, all that stuff, I can just leave it aside. Now, I've told my staff, I won't put up with disrespect. I work for people. That doesn't mean that they can disrespect me or my staff. So I've told many people, look, if you want to calm down, I'd be happy to talk to you. And, I get people that have some mental illnesses calling me too. And you can almost sense that. And I had one the other day that just, he said therapists in there, so I knew, and he was a vet from Vietnam, put two and two together. And we made an agreement, because on a phone, you know how people can talk over each other. We made an agreement to I'll let him talk first, and then I'll talk. He talked for about 10 minutes. I started talking. He got upset, and he hung up. And then he called back, and I said, look, if we're going, I'd be happy to spend some time with you and talk. But it's got to be productive. It's got to be respectful. It's got to be personal. I guarantee I'll be respectful to you. And we're trying to set something up with that gentleman. I got the patience with them, but thick skin is one. Support your family. If you're married, you have children. When I was the mayor, my daughters were in high school, and I'm telling you, boys in high school know how to tease girls. And so they would say something like, your dad made a stupid decision. My dad said your dad made and they would get upset. And then they see things in the paper and they'd get upset, especially during campaigns. Because, good people are a little ugly during campaigns. They're taught that way. They see too many TV shows. And they think that the only way they can win is to bring that person down. By the way, which I've never allowed my people to do. I'm going to win it on my merit or I won't win it. So the family has to be on board or ready for it. Now, if you have a wife like mine, Becca, who is more bubbly in personality than me, we hit rooms and she goes one way, I go the other way, and then we get back at the, sometime in the middle, and it works very well. My daughters had a little struggle, but they've gotten to a better place. And so family, that's important. So those are the two. And the third thing that has worked very well, and it's not easy to disseminate, is you get pulled in so many directions. And when I was a military member, things were so black and white. It's easy to be black and white when you're surrounded by the people that are like you. But when you're representing everybody, now all of a sudden you're hearing different perspectives on all kinds of issues that used to be very black and white to me. And the core values of mine still are. Right to life. That's, no one's going to talk me out of that. That's a core value I have, our core, deep down in me. But when you talk about, something like, guns, which I'm a big Second Amendment proponent, but still you hear some of the things you've never heard before from some of the inner cities. And it just, and I want to always be accommodating to grow and learn like that. But then when it comes time to vote, I'll tell you, sometimes I can flip a coin. Now, again, not on the hard issues like that, but you hear, like in session this afternoon, I guarantee you hear, and a lot of our members are lawyers, so they speak well, of course. So you hear a proponent, then you hear a opponent, and you're kind of saying, well, good point. Well, good point. Well, good point. And if you don't know, big difference from where I've been in the past to now is my spectrum of influence of issues were so small in the past. Now I deal with everything from fracking to right to life to guns to polling. I mean, you name it. We do healthcare, and you can't possibly be an expert on everyone. So on everything. So you have to depend on and folks. But here's my third point is, at the end of the day, when you're ready to take that vote, you gotta be right with yourself in here. And too many times I went home thinking I did the right thing and just saying, maybe I should ask, maybe I should have, maybe, and that's the worst thing in the world. But usually when you speak from your heart, or you think from, or you vote from your heart, not emotional, but in your gut that it's the right way to go, then I think you do okay. It's not perfect, but there is no perfect way to do this. You can't please everybody. When you try to please everybody, you please nobody. So I'd say a strong family, thick skin, and work, vote with your consciousness. Those were I think now all the other stuff I tell them is, when you're in high school, get your speech classes. I know it didn't used to be sexy. It's necessary. You could be the best strategic politician in the world, if you can't articulate that, you're nothing. You got to be able to speak and communicate. I think that's good. I tell my peers here, many of them are, in their late 40s, mid 40s, 50s, 60s. I still make time to go to the gym almost every day, either at home early or late or something. Not every day, but I think physical fitness helps your mind. Spiritual, physical, mental, they all come together. So I think preparing yourself in school and taking the hard subjects, be smart about that. I tell all kids when I talk to them, and even if they're business people, they're going to be business. They're going to, if they're going to be lawyers, they already know they got to take speech and they're already there. But it doesn't matter what they do in their future. They've got to be able to communicate and get over the fear. Everyone has fear to speak. And the larger the crowd, the bigger the fear. So I think those are some keys that I would give someone that might think about getting this business.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say that I haven't thought to ask?
I've been talking a lot, Thomas. I think that I would tell your listeners to challenge their elected officials. The worst thing for me, I call everyone back, and I usually call the people that are angry at me first. I've always done that because I think when they see that I care enough to call back, it helps break down the tension, and they know. And then when they hear my voice, you can tell that I really do care. I might never agree with them, but I care. So I would recommend to your folks out there, if somebody's thinking about doing this, find someone like me they can mentor with, have mentor. And I say on issues, when you hear something going on, figure out who your state rep is, your state senator, write them an email, it's posted, or give them a call, and expect them to leave a message if you don't need them to get back to you, but expect for them to represent you. Like I said earlier in this program, I think sometimes we get this thing mixed up, and I don't know how many people end up calling me and they say, sorry to bother you. And I have to say, you're not bothering me. You are what I'm here for, just like you and your work, right?
Right.
And so people got to be more assertive and say, I don't like this graduated driver's bill, Rick, and here's why. And maybe they don't understand it completely and I can help explain it, or maybe they just don't like what I'm doing. And then we, and I say this, I think this is a great way to end it because I see we're getting close. I tell people, my wife and I love each other dearly, but we don't agree half the time. So why would I expect, who would expect a stranger and me to agree more than half the time? But my wife and I communicate. And that's what we need to do at this level, not necessarily agree, but be able to communicate. Explain why you're thinking this, because even if your officials think that they know it all, they don't. And I'll be the first to tell you I don't know much about, I know what I know, which is limited, but there's a whole lot of stuff I have no clue on. And I'm going to learn. Education's one big issue here. I just don't have that much knowledge about where we are, where we've been, and where we need to go. But I'm going to learn. So I'd say, listeners, hold your elected officials accountable. Be kind, be courteous, do your homework when you talk about an issue, and then go and say, hey, why are you doing this? I don't agree. And tell them why.
All right. Well, thank you for that very much, and thank you for your time today. This is Reverend Thomas Wise. The show is called Politically Wise. I've been interviewing Rick Perales, representative here from the Beaver Creek area.
73rd District.
73rd District.
And let me tell you that my website, if anyone cares to get in touch with me, is Perales for Ohio.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas.
The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. Thank you for listening today. If you want to email me, you may do so at politically.wise@gmail.com. Please like us on our Facebook page, Politically Wise. Now, here's your blessing.
Blessings based on Psalms 7, verses 1 through 17. Blessed are you when God delivers you from all who pursue you. Blessed are you when God judges his people. Blessed are you when God makes the righteous secure. Blessed are you when God is your shield and protector. Blessed are you when you sing praises to the God most